Hey guys, it's Barrett with the Camping Camper. So today we're going to do a review on the Tireminder air compressor. It's a 12 volt compressor. It's very similar to the viair compressor. As most of you know, if you've been watching me for a long time, I did buy a viair once. I did not spend the money for the RV version. I despised it. I actually hated that thing so much that I gave it away on the giveaway on the channel. I will say that the Tireminder I'm not disappointed with at all. But you know, with the viair, it could just be because I didn't spend the extra money and get the creme de la creme. But we're starting with the top here at the Tireminder. I do have a video coming out that's going to compare this versus the viair versus like a pancake compressor in the camper that I have. And I'm going to go over all that information with you, and whenever that video's out, I'll try to remember to link that up here. So we're going to do a pretty in-depth review of this compressor right after this. So let's talk about what comes with the compressor. It gives you a carry case. The carry case holds everything. It's a pretty big case. And in the case, you have two 30-foot hoses. So these are both coil hoses. And then you have a braided cable. I wasn't sure what the purpose of the braided cable was, but remember that these have a 100% duty cycle, so you can run them for a long time and they get pretty warm. This, according to the website, actually helps dissipate that heat so that the airline lasts a lot longer and has a better lifespan. They do give you some adapters and needles so you can still, you know, blow your footballs and stuff up while you're camping. Probably wouldn't take long with this big boy right here. They also give you an airchuck. This airchuck is one of my favorites. I really like the design. The only thing that I don't like is that it's not a quick connector. You have to screw this onto the tire. But to add more air, obviously you push here, just like at a tire shop. And to release the air, you push here. The gauge that it comes with is digital. And so you have to push on to turn it on whenever you're using it. It does show like PSI, bars, all that stuff. I leave it on PSI. And I will say that this is a lot more accurate than the viair compressor that we recently tested. It was 10 PSI off. This was within 1.5 to 2 PSI of what the actual tire gauge said. And by the way, if you're looking for a tire gauge, I use the one by Tireminder, and I've had great luck with it. It's supposed to be accurate up to 1/2 pound or something, but I really like it. Of course, you also have the compressor. The compressor does hook to your battery with alligator clips. Now it's important, I didn't do it for my testing, but I did turn the truck on to charge up in between. But this can be a pretty hefty draw, and because of that, it's better to keep your truck running while you're using the air compressor so it doesn't draw your battery down. And this thing's pretty hefty. The Amazon thing says that it's actually up to, I think it's about 14 pounds in the package, which most of it's going to be the compressor itself. It is 12 volts. When I say that it pulls quite a bit of amperage, it's at 23 amps apparently. It'll pump up to 150 PSI and has a 100% max duty cycle at 72 degrees. It does, just like the viair, have an air filter here and a very similar looking head on it, and the air connector is in a very similar position. It does have an on-off switch back here that does have a dust cover on it. It appears to be really well made, and this plate, just like the viair, is an isolator plate to help keep the noise down. So when it's running and vibrating, it's on these rubber grommets here, and that controls the noise by quite a bit. So let's go over the good points. So the good points is it's relatively quiet for a compressor. You know, I think the website says it's about 60 decibels. I got 76, but I was testing it with my decibel meter from 1 foot away, and it was slightly quieter than the viair, which was coming in at 77 decibels. When I also did that test, I'll go ahead and tell you that that was both quite a bit obviously quieter than the pancake compressor that I have in the camper. But I believe that that isolator plate with the rubber grommets does help a lot. I also really like the fact that the airchuck, just like we mentioned, is within 2 pounds, 1.5 to 2 pounds of where the actual pressure is, and I can depend on that. I also like that it's 100% duty cycle. You know, a lot of these compressors that you get, which are actually more called inflators, like I really like the Dewalt one. I carry Dewalt tools, and so I thought about getting one of those, but it's not 100% duty cycle. So with those, you have to worry about it if you're running it for a long time. And you know, if you had a tire that's completely flat, it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes to pump up. That could theoretically burn that compressor up. So after like 5 minutes, I would, like with those cheaper inflators, which they're not that much cheaper, but I would like let them rest for like 10 minutes in between, let them cool off. So let's talk about the negatives. You know, obviously, you know, I don't have a lot of negatives here. I really like this compressor, but obviously that price is going to be there. That's going to be a factor whether you pick this or the viair or any other like quality air compressor. I hate to make such a big deal about it, but it's the elephant in the room, and that's what kept me from buying the more expensive viair before. I mean, these things are somewhere in the ballpark of around 350 bucks. Seems like on Amazon right now, I think the Tireminder compressor is a couple of bucks cheaper than the viair 450, but you know, they are expensive. You know, a lot of people compare these to the 12-volt high output air compressors at Harbor Freight, which they do have like a couple of different levels of, but you know, with that, you know, it all gets back to, is it going to work when I need it to work? And whenever you're really needing an air compressor to work with an RV, I mean, unless it's just like routine maintenance checks before your trip or something, but if you have a blowout or something and your spare is, you know, pretty low, then you really need this thing to work whenever you need it to work. And so that's kind of what it boils down to. You know, I've never had the Harbor Freight ones. I've never tested those, so I don't know about those. I will tell you that I've spent the extra money once on it was a slime brand down at the Walmart. Got a slime, and it was like the most expensive like 12-volt car compressor they had. They called it the elite version or advanced or, you know, one of those terms, but the pro version. But it was about 50 bucks or so. I went to use it the first time, blew the fuse, didn't work. So then I went to get another fuse, couldn't even find a fuse locally. I had to order some from Amazon. Amazon fuses came in, went to use it the second time, blew a second fuse. I have actually gotten it to work now, which I have a whole thing of fuses in the case with it. But that's kind of what I'm talking about. Number one, that didn't have a good heavy duty cycle. So it's not 100% duty cycle on there. But number two, you have to worry about things like that. Is it going to work when I want it to work? And I think technically it is rated over 100 pounds, so it will work probably with anything I need. But I wouldn't bet my well-being on it while I'm stuck on the side of the road on the interstate. I'll also say at 76 decibels, it's still a lot quieter than a lot of compressors, especially those little cheap 12-volt ones. So those are like the loudest things on earth. It's a lot quieter than my RV Flow, my winterization system that Lippert sent me. It's a lot quieter than the Flow, but you know, because I think they should have used a little bit better compressor in that personally, but you know, it is what it is. My only other complaint about this compressor was actually the storage bag, and I talked to the guys down at Tireminder about it. And you know, they have great customer service, which I've referenced on my channel many times, but I had a hard time getting the hose to go back in the carry case. Well, since they had sent me the compressor, they actually redid the carry case. It looks the exact same, but when you look at it really closely compared to the other one, these side pockets are a little bit bigger. They were probably about ½ inch bigger, deeper. And so now that hose fits in there a lot better and just zips right up, and I have no issue with it. So they have resolved the biggest problem that I had with the actual compressor itself, which was the carry case, and that problem has been fixed. But the only other thing downside to these, any of these systems, is the size. Like, I mean, it is, you know, it's 14 pounds. It is like a foot long, a little bit longer, and it's wide here because you got the hoses on both sides and everything. And this is not going to fit in like the under seat storage of your truck or something like that. So I usually do keep it in the camper. And I have the big compressor in the camper, so I don't really have to have this in the camper. But I use the old adage, you know, 2 is 1, 1 is none. I'm not going to be stuck on the side of the road and not be able to air up my tire. And this is a lot easier to use. You have to hook the alligator clips up, but if I'm using the pancake compressor on the side of the road, then I have to go in, I have to turn on the generator, and then I have to hook an extension cord up to the generator, which I have, that just goes for that air compressor, because whenever I'm not using the generator, I actually plug it in on the opposite side of the camper. And the only issue that I've had there is when it wasn't level on the side of the road. I've had issues where my generator wants to slide back inside the camper because I run it on a tray outside. But it, you know, there's a lot of issues there that I get around by using this. I just clip it to the battery, turn it on, let it run, tire gets full, down the road we go.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.